call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4. Here. Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our own Ron Bertell will do the invocation this morning, so please remain standing after the invocation for our pledge.
Thank you. Would you bow with me, please? James 1:5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." So, Lord, today we come before you, and as we begin deliberating the items of this day, we ask that your wisdom fill this place, and that each of us may receive the wisdom to clearly understand the actions that you desire today. Your word says that you have placed these officials in this role to protect the people and to provide a peaceful environment for all to live. May our actions today fulfill that goal. We thank you for the economic favor that continues to be released in our community, and we ask that if we continue to seek you, this favor will continue. In this summer of heat and drought, we ask that you send your healing and cleansing physical rain into our land, and that you may also send healing and cleansing spiritual rain into our hearts. Forgive us when we fail to treat each other with dignity and respect, for we are all your children, and your amazing love for each of us was demonstrated on the cross. Thank you. And it is in the name of our Savior that I offer this prayer. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ron. Miscellaneous agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have two announcements relating to the agenda this morning. The first one is under transportation. It is L2, which is the final payment to TxDOT concerning Cattle Barren Drive and Silver Creek. There is a revised court communication. We had to make a correction on the funding accounts. That's the only thing as relates to that. And then also, when we get into the briefing areas, under the update on the West Nile virus, because things are changing so rapidly in that particular area, we included a revised PowerPoint that Ms. Brewer will be discussing with you as we get to that particular element within the agenda. Also, members of court, I would like to take this opportunity to reintroduce a gentleman to you all that each of you know. We now have our new CIO on board. This is Stephen Wetzel. He comes and Stephen, let me tell you, that is the last time they will ever applaud you.
Do take advantage of the honeymoon period.
It's going to end in about 30 minutes.
Stephen comes to us from Maricopa County, which is in Phoenix, Arizona. He started yesterday, and I will tell you that he has hit the ground running. And so if there's any needs that the court members have, Steve is available at any time to you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, GK. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of July the 24th.
Second.
We have a motion second. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Proclamations. Commissioner Brooks.
Your Honor, I have a proclamation honoring the Pentecostal Church of God in Christ. It's already been presented. I move for ratification.
So moved. That's a second, right? Second. We have a motion and second. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ladies.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have three additional items for the court this morning. On item number 1, we're requesting that the court consider and approve an exception to the county's travel policy as it relates to Constable Precinct 1. There are really two issues on this. There are 4 members of the constable's office that will be attending the JP and Constable Conference, which will be held in Greenville, Texas. And because of the driving distance, we're asking that they be allowed to stay overnight in region. Also, Constable Crowder is requesting that we allow him to attend this conference. We do have a policy that says that if an office holder is in his last term and he's not going to serve another term, that he must seek Commissioner's Court approval prior to doing that type of educational travel. Staff is recommending that the court approve these exceptions.
Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The court, on item number 2, we're requesting that the court accept a grant adjustment notice for the 2010 State Homeland Security Grant Program. On this particular item, we were originally allocated $144,200, and this was for the Southern Emergency Response and Preparedness Association, which is the southern part of our county, the fire units and the municipalities there. We were able to acquire everything that we had set out to acquire, and we only had to spend about $60,000 of that, a little bit over $60,200. And what we're asking is that you approve this grant adjustment notice. The remainder of those funds will go back to the COG for reassignment within the region.
Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 3, I'm going to ask Mr. Mendez to make this presentation.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court. We presented the initial 8 issues last week at briefing session. Since then, we have incorporated the recommendations of the court into the 8 as presented, and we included an additional policy statement as recommended by Commissioner Brooks. We did add a statement regarding appraisal caps, as I mentioned. We added 2 bullet points to the criminal justice policy statement at the judge's direction, and we did remove a bullet point from the transportation policy statement as recommended by Commissioner Fickus. Unless there are any questions, I would request approval of the court for these 9 policy statements, which will be the initial package of the legislative agenda for this session.
I move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Tip.
We have one item we're asking the court's consideration this morning, and that is to receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the 9 months ended June 30th, 2012.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Snyder.
Risk Management Board is recommending a subrogation request from the insured of a claimant in the amount of $20,501.92.
I have a question on this.
Sure.
I think probably all of us did, but I received notice of a lawsuit regarding this
Correct.
accident. So
This
this
is-
is just for part of the settlement.
It's property damage only.
It's what?
Property damage.
Property damage.
The BI is still pending. We've reimbursed so far. This will make the vehicle, who his insurance company handled that claim directly, and is now subrogating with us. We've also handled replacement of equipment. He's in the air conditioning, heating business. We've handled the replacement of some of the equipment he used in his day-to-day work. So now what is pending is bodily injury.
I was thinking that was part of the lawsuit. Is this not going to affect the lawsuit if we settle on this?
It shouldn't. It usually reduces our exposure by doing this now.
And I think that was simply a notice from his attorney. I don't think any formal action has been filed yet.
Okay.
Paul, am I correct? Correct.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 3 items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda. The court may have noted that you actually have a special notation on your agenda this week, and that's atypical. The affected employee has returned from military leave, and so you'll note that there are 3 transactions for that employee. Those 3 transactions represent pay adjustments that the employee missed during his absence. And so now that the employee is back at work, we're requesting that the court approve these adjustments, which is typical when folks return from military leave. We make sure that we make them whole for any adjustments that they would have missed. And the court should also note that these adjustments have actually occurred during the last paycheck, on our last payroll. So this is just your notice that that's occurred.
Move approval to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2, we're asking the court's approval of a reorganization in the county clerk's office. You have several documents there. I'll try to just summarize it for you very quickly. The county clerk is asking for some fairly significant changes to her records preservation unit. Currently, she has 5 vacant positions, a record manager, which is a pay grade 74, a records manager supervisor, which is a pay grade 71, and then 3 non-exempt project positions. These are all vacant positions. The county clerk is asking that these positions be eliminated. There are 16 remaining positions in this unit. Your court communique indicates 12. That's an error. There are actually 16. And the county clerk is requesting that these 16 positions then be reassigned to the specific divisions in her department where they report currently. So it's her belief that this will make for a more efficient operation of that unit, and there is no impact to the general fund.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Our third and final item, we're asking the court to approve 2 waivers that are being requested by the district clerk's office. The district clerk has lost 2 of the lead clerks in the civil courts division. One was an unexpected and sudden resignation on July 13th. Another was a planned retirement at the end of July. The net impact of these 2 waivers currently, we believe, is around $14,463. There could be an opportunity for additional cost savings. The district clerk has yet to identify one replacement.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beecham.
Thank you for these votes.
Good morning. Judge, before we begin our business, we took the opportunity to place auction brochures at your desks this morning. Commissioner Johnson and Precinct 4 are hosting once again on August the 11th our Tarrant County Summer Auction. Viewing will begin at 8 o'clock. The actual auction will begin at 9 o'clock. Have some stuff to sell, and love to have you come out and sweat with us.
Be nice and warm out there. Come on out.
Our first item is a bid award recommendation for RFP 2012-105. This is for our Tarrant County's self-insured workers' compensation program, third-party administrative services, and/or our cost containment services. Recommendation will be toward the JI Specialty Services on per the contract terms. If this is approved, we're seeking contract approval. Robin Worthy is here if you have questions on this particular item.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second and last item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2012-109. This is our annual contract for short and long-term rental of cars, trucks, and vans. Recommendation would be to award a per enterprise basis, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lamb. Ms. Green. Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies.
Your Honor, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve to convey 1.58 acres of land along Henderson Street, which is State Highway 199, between the Clerk Fork Trinity River and the Fort Worth and W Railroad in Fort Worth to the state of Texas. This property was acquired by Tarrant County in 1930. It is currently used as a state highway and controlled and maintained by the state of Texas. The Tarrant Regional Water District is working on the Trinity River vision in that area, and they're required to acquire certain right-of-way for their project in fee simple, and as a result, they will be working with the state of Texas doing some type of a joint use agreement between the two of them with regard to the use of this right-of-way.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fickens, you have an interlocal agreement?
Yes, interlocal to approve the sale of liquid asphalt to the city of Keller. Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Any appointments today? Being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have three items we're going to bring to you this morning. The first one concerns the establishment of a TIF in the city of Kennedale. Ms. McMillan is here to address the court at this time.
Judge, Commissioners, the City of Kennedale is proposing the use of tax increment financing to fund the construction of public improvements and encourage new private development and the redevelopment of existing racetracks in a 544-acre area along New Hope Road. As currently proposed, the TIF funds generated from the zone will provide for an estimated $12.7 million in public projects. These include construction of New Hope Road, improvements to Bloxson Park Road, water, sewer, and drainage improvements, streetscape and pedestrian access, and land acquisition for a commuter rail station. This investment in public improvements is estimated to add $109 million in property value over the 25-year life of the TIF. Bob Hart, City Manager of Kennedale, is here today to give the court a formal presentation on this TIF. I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, and I want to just talk a few minutes about this. And obviously the first question is, what's going on in Kennedale? Now, I wanted to start here to help set some context in terms of the work that's going on. I have with me our Mayor Pro Tem, Brian Johnson, and so he can answer any questions should you have those. Some of the work that's been happening in Kennedale, we have, over the last several years, been working to close the sexually oriented businesses that were at the north end of town. They're all closed and gone today. There's a quick trip that's being constructed for that sets. We have spent the last three and a half years working on the Kennedale Town Center, which is a retail development in what we're establishing as a downtown area. That's being done with a private developer, with the city's participation, the Economic Development Corporation's participation, and the financing mechanism we used was a municipal management district. We, of course, obviously are very appreciative of the transportation bond program with the county. We are finishing up Bowman Springs, Little Squirrel Road, and Sublette Road now. We'll actually be having a dedication of those on Saturday morning. And they have certainly enhanced the movement of traffic in and around Kennedale. I think enhanced a lot of the economic activity that we'll see. We've also been awarded a TxDOT Green Ribbon grant to landscape about half of Kennedale Parkway at the north and south entrance, and then in the center near the Kennedale Town Center. That work will actually begin in August, and then the plantings will occur this fall. We've been working with Forest Hill and Fort Worth on a corridor study on Business 287, and out of that discussion and coordination, we've been able to obtain a grant through COG, an RTR grant, to build a sidewalk along Kennedale Parkway. And that helps not only the pedestrian movement, but it ties back to the street projects that we've done jointly with the county. So that's coordinated very closely. We've also paid close attention to code enforcement efforts. In the last 4 years, we've torn down almost 200 structures in town, and that always helps to improve an appearance in a community. We've done a strategic plan, and all this work comes largely out of that work. And then also we have created or adopted a new comprehensive land use plan. So it's within this context and of the strategic plan and our new comprehensive land use plan, and why we want to approach and ask for your participation in a tax increment district within Kennedale. What we want to do is to develop the southwest portion of town as a residential area, and that's simply not going to be. We're not going to be able to do that without some incentives and some injection of government participation, and that's why we're coming to you and asking for the participation in this TERS. And of course, all of you are familiar with those. It's a defined area. In our case, there's 2 non-contiguous areas that's here, and it does allow us then to make some improvements to help induce some development in that southwest part of town. Kennedale is located at the Interstate 20, 820, and Business 287 intersection. As you can see that on the map. Within Kennedale, this is the location of the 2 zones. The one to the west side of the map is what we call the New Hope Road area. That's the area that we want to convert to residential use. There are currently 3 racetracks of automobile racing, a drag strip, and 2 circle tracks that are in the area, and they really impede development. We do receive complaints about noise from residents and also residents of Arlington and Mansfield. So this would allow for greater housing development in that area. The area to the east is what we call the Bloxson Park. That would enhance some of the industrial area, or the potential for some industrial development. The reason we're interested in upgrading that is, independent of this, we're also working to clean up Village Creek. We have a number of structures that have been constructed within the floodplain, and in some cases the floodway, and we're working with FEMA and the Corps to begin to remove some of those structures. Some of them are local businesses, and we want to have this area available so that we can hopefully keep them within Kennedale and just have another location in which to move them. So this is the overall picture of Kennedale. The projects that are underway that we believe support a TERS is the closure of the sexually oriented businesses, because what we found is people were reluctant to invest in Kennedale as long as those businesses were located at the north end. So we're seeing some increased activity with their closure. The construction of Quick Trip is very positive. The town center is important because we need additional rooftops to support the town center that's there. That's the planned development over the next 10 years or so. And then, of course, the construction of the Bowman Springs, Little School Road, and Sublette Road all improve access in, and they'll help support the TERS in terms of getting people into the community. The expansions of Fort Worth Tire has been very important to us. They have grown from 5 years ago of about 90 employees. Now they're up over 300 So that's an important business for us at the north end of town. We think that the Green Ribbon Grant with the landscaping on Kennedale Parkway and the sidewalks will also enhance the TERS in terms of bringing people to the community and helping that viability. This again is the location of those projects within Kennedale. Current challenges on New Hope is the roadway conditions, the lack of wastewater service or sewer service in that area, and then some drainage areas.
Are you telling me right now that New Hope is basically a gravel road?
No, it is a asphalt. It's 2-lane asphalt. Yeah, this would give you a sense of some of the housing and the structures that are in that area. So when we talk about it being underdeveloped or having some blight, that this would exhibit that. So these are other pictures. This would give you a good view of New Hope Road. And so what we'd like to do in this area is to construct New Hope Road, curb and gutter, to extend a 12-inch sewer line into the property to serve that area, be the trunk line or the major collector line. The acquisition of about 3.5 acres of land for a commuter rail station. In the future, landscaping along the medians and sidewalks within New Hope, and then also hike and bike trails. Okay, so this would give you an example of what's there in some areas, and then to the right is actually along Little School Road, and this is more of the view of what we'd like to see in that area. In talking to potential developers and builders, this is going to become a major issue to help induce some of that investment. The current zoning in that area is a mixture of both commercial and residential and some agricultural use. And then for the Bloxson Park area is all zoned industrial. The development points within the New Hope Road, we think is about $10 million for the development of New Hope Road. That's both the engineering, the right-of-way acquisition, and construction. The extension of the sewer line to serve that area. The hike and bike trails. The hike and bike trails will actually follow tributaries of Village Creek up into Village Creek and then tie into near Lake Arlington and is also being coordinated with the cities of Arlington and the cities of Fort Worth. And then land acquisition for a future commuter rail stop. In 25 years, we think that the zone will grow from its current value of $18 million to $127 million, which results in a taxable value increase of $109 million due to the construction of 435 homes and then the growth of new commercial and industrial development areas. Improvements of New Hope Road would be 2 lanes with 4-lane right-of-way, 14-foot width, and you can kind of see what the design criteria would be for that. And this is taken from our comprehensive plan. The commuter rail stop is important. We feel like we're going to need about 6.5 acres for that. The city has currently acquired 3 acres of land in that area, and then we want to include in the TERS the acquisition of additional 3.5 acres.
So what railroad is connected with that?
The UP Railroad. And then we've worked with the COG staff, and that's how we've identified this particular location. Bloxson Park Road we're looking for the provision of water and sewer service and street construction. In this case, it is a mixture of gravel and dirt roads that are in that area. It's on septic.
Is that a public road?
Yes. Yes. These are the improvements that we would see in that area in terms of the extension of wastewater, water, and the street improvements to that area. And there we're looking at just an asphalt two-lane road in that area. So together with the two components, we're looking at public investments of $12,775,000. We're asking for the county's participation at 75%, or a total of $2.48 million. We'll also be approaching TCC and the hospital district, asking for their participation. And then, of course, the city will put in 100% of the taxes that the city collects into this project. So you can see of how that contribution would be divided between the four jurisdictions. This is the pace in which we think the development will occur. And then the increment value over the period of time. We think the industrial park will follow the movement within Village Creek. That's obviously a long-term project, but we want to be ahead of the curve in this particular case. This is the effective tax rate in terms of participation amongst the four jurisdictions, or at least what we're requesting. And the annual contribution on the part of the city and the county. And in the hospital district, and get those pretty quick, and the college. In terms of the dates, the City Council has conducted a public hearing, has adopted an ordinance creating the TERS. We did that at the July 12th meeting. What we'll be asking is for the jurisdictions to appoint a board member in September, so we could have a meeting on October the 11th, and then could come back to you with a participation agreement sometime between the October and the middle part of December. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have on this.
I think it's important that you share with the court members regarding the support that we have been receiving from the property owners, the racetrack owners, and the SOB business owners.
Yes, the reason for the timing in this is somewhat twofold. One is starting to look at where we think the housing market may be going in terms of some rebounding that's going on. The track owners are interested in closing the tracks and converting the land to the single-family use. And so we're trying to time and coordinate this to work well. We've got very good support within the community. This was a high priority item within our strategic plan that was community driven, and it was a high priority within the comprehensive land use plan that the council used a citizens committee, spent about 9 months through mid-2011 through mid-2012 working on. It was just adopted 2 months ago.
Yeah, do you have any idea what the price point would be on, is it like 450 housing units?
Yes, sir. It'd be about $250,000.
Okay, so those are all
per home.
Single-family type houses.
Yes, sir.
Is there any multifamily?
It's not planned. Where it's, we've had some conversations with the developers on this. The initial planning is that it would be all single family.
Okay. How did you? What conversations have you had with the sexually oriented? You've already closed those down?
They're all closed.
Did you buy those out, or how did you?
That was about a 7-year process. We actually.
You got it done quickly.
That
was more like a 25 to 30-year process.
Well, I should say about 7 years since we adopted an ordinance, went into litigation, and then we settled those cases and gave them a period of time to phase out. So from the litigation point, it's been about 7 years.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes way beyond.
I was on the Forest Hill City Council, and we together wrestled with that problem for years. Yeah.
So you have zoning and stuff in place now that would prevent any sexually oriented business basically from being able to acquire land and reopen?
I think it's hard.
We have to allow a sexually oriented business to open. We do have an ordinance that regulates the locations of those within Kennedale.
And so basically you've identified the locations so that if interested citizens wanted to put child care, schools, or churches somewhere in the area, they might be able to do that and affect future development.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm following. We've identified, the courts have held that a sexually oriented business has a constitutional right to develop in your community. Within our zoning ordinance, we have designated sites in which they could locate. Now, if a church or a daycare center would locate nearby, we would have to make some adjustments to our plan to shift the site elsewhere.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
I think that's what the judge was referring to, an offensive type of strategy.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I just have a question about JPS's participation. And that wouldn't necessarily be to you, it might be to Lisa, or what type of...
JPS's participation will be decided on by the Commissioners Court.
What?
It will be, that is something now that's decided on by the Commissioners Court. So as we bring forward agreements, they will be both a county agreement and a JPS or hospital district agreement. It'll be two separate agreements, but they will both be brought to the Commissioners Court for action.
Conventional wisdom on creating these TIF districts has been that usually single-family construction was not included, or at least there was a cap on the amount of residential that could go in these zones because of the lower tax base that those types of facilities generate as compared with commercial and industrial. Why is it appropriate in this case?
Well, we have done other tax increment zones. In Grand Prairie, the Peninsula TIF, the part that's in Tarrant County, that was a majority of it was housing along that lake area with some mixed-use neighborhood retail in it. The Viridian,
I have in mind particularly the East Area TIF, where the TIF follows the road from commercial district to commercial district and eliminates all of the residential along the way under the theory.
well, it eliminates the residential that was already there, and it's different. This is adding residential, and what the law is saying, you can't have in the zone so much that's already there. It doesn't mean what grows afterward. So that's the difference. They had to eliminate that residential because it was already in place.
The Viridian deal is
The Viridian is almost all housing, plus neighborhood retail and some offices also. So that's why this is. It's mainly what's there before and what's there after.
And I think one of the things that we've been concerned about, not so much on the TIP because they continue to pay the taxes, but on doing any kind of an abatement where you had residential in there, where potentially you created an unfair advantage to people who, if you buy a condo here, you don't have to pay taxes for 10 years versus if you buy the same condo a block away, you may be paying taxes for.
And in the case of a TIF or TERS, the money is all going for public improvements for those roads to allow for the developers and to be able to build homes there.
No,
This doesn't go for any of the arterials or any inside streets within those neighborhoods, only for the main road.
And I noticed in here that, the city has a fairly high, their participation is much higher than what collectively the other ones are.
Correct.
Historically, we have not participated, I don't believe, in parks.
Not parks, but we have allowed the hike and bike, the pedestrian access trails.
Okay,
This isn't a
that's the
park,
question I wanted to
yeah.
ask.
We have allowed those in the other districts because they provided linkages, and like this one is providing linkages to the other cities.
Okay.
I think that a very important factor that we have to keep in mind as well is the population growth in southeast Tarrant County has been concentrating in South Arlington, Cannondale, and Mansfield. Basically, we landlocked, we run out of land. And Cannondale has some land, but right now they're underutilized. And we need to put together something like this to plan for the future. And I think this is the right approach. We might have to tweak the details, but from a strategic level, I think this is the right thing to do.
Is that old business 287, or is that's not the new freeway 287?
That's old business 287.
The old business 287.
That goes up through Forest Hill on one side, north of 20.
Riverside Drive, Mansfield.
And I would love to, and I hope with you that we see commuter rail going there, but for it to go over our Union Pacific Railroad track is going to be an amazing feat. One that I would liken to you getting rid of your sexually oriented businesses.
Would that happen? So this could
How many
happen
years?
too.
How many years?
7. That'd be nice if we could have commuter rail in
7
7
after
years.
the litigation.
So,
And then it'll be about 7 after the litigation with Union Pacific.
again, I just want to kind of wrap it up. As you saw, they are asking the county to participate at 75% and the hospital district at 50%. And at those rates, we're anticipating it would be just under $2.5 million for the county over the 25-year period and about $1.4 million for the hospital district over that period. And again, then the new revenues coming in would match that over for the hospital district.
The leverage is what?
Well, $109 million of new growth to the $12 million of
I want you to
investment.
do the math.
Oh. I think it's about, what is it, about 10 or 11%?
1 to 10.
Okay. Close enough.
Thank you.
I'm an Aggie. What do you expect?
It's great. I mean, I think it's a great deal, and I think that it will be super for Kennedale.
So with the consensus of the court, then we're going to move forward working with the city of Kennedale. We'll ask Commissioner Wynn to appoint a board member at a later meeting, and then we'll work on the participation agreements and bring those back to you hopefully by the end of the year. And before I leave, I have to remind everybody it's Taco Tuesday, and that in support of the food bank and as a fundraiser, representatives from the HR department, auditor's office, and administrator's office are doing a taco meal for a minimum donation of $5. You get 2 tacos, a cookie, and a drink. So stop on by, beat the heat, don't go outside, come and eat
Don't
inside.
charge Duff $5 for that cookie he got earlier.
Uh-oh, glad you told me.
Can I have 3 cookies, 3 tacos instead of the cookies?
We can work a deal, we can work a deal.
$5.
Thank you.
Duff just disconnected me because I made a statement right there.
Okay. On item 3, this concerns an update from AgriLife as it relates to the Master Gardener Program. Mr. James is here to address the board at this time.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. I wanted to tell you, just get you a little quick update on some of the volunteer programs that we have going here in the county and some of the wonderful things that our folks are doing. We started up in the Tarrant County Master Gardener Association is one of the oldest in the state. Started up in 1988, still going very, very strong. We started out with 15 to 20 people. We now have well over 400. In 2011, they volunteered well over 55,000 hours back to the community. Which is by far the #1 organization in the state by about 50%. In 2011, the association was voted the #1 association in the state. Again, we get it about every other year, and it's voted from colleagues of mine from out of in other states, so it's not just somebody local. And we also had the #1 Master Gardener of the Year. I'm not sure she made it, but she was running a little late. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little quick update on that. Cutting the ribbon, as you can see there, we got one of you in the picture. That was a lot of fun, and that's our Resource Connection Community Garden. and it's been a fabulous addition to Resource Connection. You can kind of see it there. Tremendous amount of people coming out to see it, and it's brightened, not only has it brightened up the campus, but it's given a lot of people new ideas of ways to do things in their yards.
What is it, 5 or 6 years old now?
It's about 6 years, yes, sir. We started, that was just a blank area that had a hard time getting weeds growing on it. And we've got some beautiful herbs and everything else you can think of, including fruit trees and cactus gardens and ornamental grass gardens and a little bit of everything.
And many of the planting beds are raised so that they're wheelchair accessible.
And we have had a lot of real good interest in that, showing people how to do different things and getting them the opportunity to learn a little bit different ways. One of the neatest things, I think, has been growing herbs for WIC. We've done that for the last several years, the kitchen herbs. Over 1,800 WIC volunteers over the last several years have been part of that. With the pre-survey, 52% said they used herbs daily. 3 months later, after the classes, now 75% of them saying they're using it daily. That's a nice 25% increase. They learned that herbs can smell good. Other spices are just as good as salt. Ways to cook that are healthier but still good to eat. And the last one was the neatest one, is give my kids more veggies and don't add butter to it, and get them to eat it, even broccoli. Alice Carlson is another one. We've been heavily involved with children, and I think that's important because, as we all know, that's our future. Alice Carlson is a award-winning, not only statewide but nationwide garden and outdoor learning center for the children. We've had Master Gardeners involved in that for quite a number of years. And it's a wonderful learning environment. And the wonderful thing is that not only are the volunteers involved, but the neighborhood is involved. And if you have any ideas of mischief in your mind and you go over there in the evening, you'll find some of the neighbors out there with brooms and who knows what else shooing you away. So it's a great place. Volunteering for the kids, there's a couple I showed in there, some volunteers that are spending their time out there, to both the time and money. This was a neat one that the children came up. It's a lizard hill, a place that they use some rocks to create a place for lizards and to actually get in there as a hotel and see what, watch them and see them in their additional environment. So great there. Veterans Park, Molly Holler, Wildscape. I think all of you have probably seen or heard of it at one time. Molly's one of our master gardeners. A great place. It shows you an ideal place that things can grow in the wild and nature. And most important is get outside, and enjoy it. Community gardens is a big buzzword, not only here, but in everywhere throughout the United States. So we have been involved in helping start a number of them, helping a lot of our volunteers are working at them. So I just hit a few of them. The North Richland Hills, the Common Ground, is a great new community garden. Euless is the Six Stones Garden. It has 77 beds in it now, and the second edition is soon to be built with another 77 raised beds. I was out talking to a couple of people out there the other day, and they love it. They think it's the neatest thing in the world. We've got a community garden at Resource Connection. We've helped start a small one out at Forest Hill behind the library. And the kids, along with the food bank and several other people are involved, the kids got a big kick out of it. They built it out of stones and then painted it bright primary color, so they had a good time. UTA's got a big one, Legacy Park in Arlington. The Tarrant Area Food Bank is behind a lot of this. So community gardens are the big thing. Here's just a couple pictures of them. You can see up in the Forest Hill with the bright colors. Common Ground, the Six Stones. We've got some going at some schools, Heritage Elementary, for instance. And then even not only teaching them how to garden, but teaching them how to make rain barrels and conserve it if it does rain again. Morningside Elementary is another one of our great schools to go along with Alice Carlson. And they've got a dinosaur pit that you can see there where they actually bury bones in there and let the kids come out and dig them up and learn some different things there. But I think one of the unique things was on the left. It's a gazebo made out of pieces of PVC pipe. And so they got the community people in the community and the parents to come out and donate their time to come up with some unusual things for the kids. Master Gardener projects, we have a tremendous amount of them. Grapevine Botanic Garden, Common Grounds, Six Stones, the Meditation Garden at JPS, Teen Challenge, Community Garden at the Resource Connection. We're doing a lot of wonderful work at Union Gospel Mission, at Samaritan House, Thistle Hill, Japanese Gardens, Children's Garden, Alice Carlson, the Junior Master Gardener Program, the Southwest Sub Courthouse, the Veterans Park. It just goes on and on and on, and we're completely out throughout the entire part of the county. So I just wanted really quickly to thank you for your time. The Master Gardeners want to send a big round of thank you for all your generous support of my position, obviously, and the resources we have at our office. And we consider it an honor to help educate our fellow friends and community members, especially, again, our children who are the future. So we thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Members of the court, we have one additional item. That's item C, which is an update on the West Nile virus issue. Ms. Brewer is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There are three of us that are going to talk to you this morning because this is a team effort, and you're going to be hearing a lot about collaboration, both external and internal. You have before you a handout which represents some of the critical information we're going to be talking about. All of that is on our website, which we're keeping updated on a daily basis, along with my daily updates to you. So some of what you're hearing today, most of what you're hearing today, should sound familiar as well. I'm going to give you how did we get here, when did this start, and how did we get to this point, very briefly. Then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sandra Parker, our Medical Director, Health Authority. She's going to talk about the disease and the human impact. And then our Assistant Environmental Health Manager, Gary Rothbart, is going to talk to you about our interventions and working with our collaboration partners. Just to review, we heard about West Nile virus back in 1999. It really started on the East Coast, and we saw that it started coming from east to west, so we actually had a winter to be prepared. At that time, we had no vector control program for Tarrant County Public Health. Fortunately, we had some people with some expertise, and we relied, even at the beginning, on working with our partners and striking a collaboration. So by the following spring, we were ready to go. We were trained. We agreed we were emphasizing prevention, and we started the season. The next year, that project, that collaborative project, won a National Association of County and City Health Officials Model Project Award. Again, currently we have at least 23 municipalities participating in our surveillance program, that we're having more sign on, even as I speak, probably. And then we also have the county participating, and we have DFW Airport participating. So those are some of our partners to date. It takes a number of us in the health department to address this issue. Our lab is involved, our epidemiology department get the human reports and report those out and develop our maps for the website. Our PIO is involved with the media and the education events. Our environmental health staff are doing training and working side by side with the municipalities. And of course, our medical director and myself are involved as well. We have some of these people here today, if you'll raise your hand, that aren't going to be speaking. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to our health director and our Health Authority Medical Director, Dr. Sandra Parker, and she'll give you a little more of an update.
Thank you, Luke. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Park.
I'd like to take a few moments to describe in more detail how Tarrant County Public Health is working with our city and county partners to fight the bite of West Nile virus. Partnering with cities, Tarrant County Public Health's current activities addressing West Nile virus include surveillance and lab testing of mosquito specimens, investigation and monitoring of reported human cases, and distribution of prevention information and education. Cooperating on the county level, Tarrant County Public Health's current activities addressing West Nile virus include exchanging information with other health departments and the regional state health department by staff involved in epidemiology, environmental health services, public information, and the local health authorities. These open lines of communication among organizations and throughout all levels of the organizations help to maintain situational awareness and coordinate responses. The Centers for Disease Control reports on their website that West Nile virus has been identified in 15 other states besides Texas, with a total of 182 human cases. This information does lag behind quite a bit of what's reported by Tarrant County and by Texas, just because it follows a progression up to the federal government. 145 cases have been reported in Texas, and 80% of these cases are in the North Texas area. Based on current estimates from the Department of State Health Services, estimates based on this year's strong early start and average onset of cases, we may be on course for a season with more than 500 cases statewide, which would rank as the second highest number of cases since West Nile virus came to Texas in 2002. To date, there have been 61 reported cases of illness due to the West Nile virus throughout Tarrant County. Of the 61 cases, approximately 40% have been classified as the West Nile neuroinvasive disease, and approximately 60% have been the West Nile fever. Human cases have been reported throughout Tarrant County and the north central Texas area. There has not been a reported death in Tarrant County due to West Nile virus this year. To date, approximately 35% of tested mosquito samples from participating partners across Tarrant County have been positive for the West Nile virus. Now we'll have...
Excuse me, Dr. Parker, could you go back to that map, please? Is there any explanation for the distribution of those cases? They all seem to be east of 35 and north of 30, the predominance of them.
Yes, there is an explanation for that, and I believe Gary was going to touch on that. And if he doesn't, I'm sure he will, but if there's any further questions after that, then I'd be happy to address those. But we'll have Gary Rothbart from our Environmental Services Division to discuss these activities in more detail.
All right, thank you. I will address the question first. There's a couple of reasons. Number one, the basic topography of the eastern part of the county is conducive to mosquito breeding. It has more trees, more wet grasses, okay, which is conducive for mosquito breeding. Okay, so there's a higher chance. In addition, because it's a more urbanized area, there's a higher population and such a higher chance for transmission from the mosquito to the human. And that's what we're attributing to the main reason for that. As you go west, the topography changes. It's more flatlands, less trees, and the mosquitoes, they really do like to keep cool just like the rest of us. The main thing that we want to try to emphasize in the Environmental Health Division is our 4 Ds. The most important to start with is making sure that we emphasize to our citizens that protection is the number one thing that we can do to prevent the disease. And it starts with, whenever possible, limit our activities in the evening or early hours to staying indoors. Try to prevent from being bitten. If you do have to go outside, the next important thing is to make sure we're wearing long sleeve shirts, long pants. I know that's not very popular when it's really hot, but again, it's one way to try to prevent the mosquito from getting a chance to bite you. Number 3 would be the use of a repellent that has the main ingredient of DEET as a repellent to the mosquito. And it's important to note that many times that repellent can be added to our clothes. Some people think, well, I have my clothes on, I don't want to put the repellent on, but you can actually add it to your clothes, which gives you some added protection. And one of the most important items then is to make sure that citizens are scouring their properties, looking for places where there's standing water. It doesn't take very much standing water for a mosquito to breed in. It could be flower pots, bird baths, tin cans, just about any place that will gather water. And even though we're in the midst of a drought here, more people are watering their lawns, which increases that chance for water to collect in places that they're not aware of. And we also emphasize that many of the citizens can do larviciding. Some of the cities in our county do provide larvicides for some of their citizens, and also many of the home improvement stores carry the mosquito dunks that can be bought for a very reasonable price, where they have to apply dunks where maybe they have larger ponds, or it's difficult to drain that water. Any questions?
Mr. Brooks, you look very concerned.
I am concerned because West Nile virus numbers are growing daily. Thank goodness we haven't had any deaths in Tarrant County. But the reason I asked that this briefing be placed on today's agenda was to give the public some information about West Nile, about what we are doing as a county agency to address the issue, and about some things that they could do as individual citizens. So I want to make sure that we make it plain what individuals can do to protect themselves from West Nile. So if you go through this list of 4 things again and make it plain.
I'll do that. The prevention message is this: remember and follow the 4 Ds. Drain standing water to prevent the areas where mosquitoes breed. Dusk and dawn are the times when mosquitoes are active. Avoid those times if possible. 3, dress appropriately. Long sleeves. There's even shirts that you can wear that are very thin fabric, but long sleeves, long clothes, if you must be outside in dusk and dawn and can't avoid it. And number 4, DEET. Also a part of dress appropriately. Use DEET if you're going to be outside anytime, for any length of time. If you're going outside to water the flowers, spray yourself with some insect repellent before you go out. It's very important. That is the one thing that people can do to protect themselves against the West Nile virus, is to use insect repellent with DEET.
Do most of them have DEET?
Yes, most of them do, and just follow the label instructions for that. But specifically, just look for some. There are some natural ones that do not. That's why I'm emphasizing look for the ones with DEET.
What's critical about dusk and dawn? Is it that only mad dogs, Englishmen, and mosquitoes go out in the midday sun?
Yes, sir. No, not in the midday sun. No, I'm sorry. No, I thought you were saying at dusk till dawn. That's when the mosquitoes are active. That's when the mosquitoes are active, or at dusk till dawn. But I'm saying that because of the current situation right now, it would be a good idea, regardless of the time that you're going out, to use insect repellent if you're going to be out in your yard taking care of things where mosquitoes may be. But especially at dusk to dawn, when the mosquitoes are active, is when you need to use your insect repellent.
It's okay, Dr. Parker. You stepped all over a good joke.
Okay, well, I never said I was a comedian.
They don't like
At what point in time, if someone may have what are we looking for? What is an individual looking for if they feel like they've got something or they may have the West Nile virus? What should they do?
Sure. The signs and symptoms of West Nile virus are variable. Many people who are infected, who would become infected with West Nile virus, wouldn't show any signs and symptoms at all. But some may experience a fever or mild headache before fully recovering. But it's an estimated that only 20% of people who become infected would experience those type of symptoms. A very small number of those may go on to show the signs and the symptoms, which would be a severe headache, possibly even confusion, and lethargy, which would be the symptoms of the West Nile neuroinvasive disease. What we would suggest and recommend is that if someone is experiencing these symptoms and they think they've had that exposure, is to contact their primary care provider, because these symptoms are variable and they're not specific to only this disease. They would need evaluation to determine what their illness might be. And usually what you were also referring to was the incubation period. It would usually, if someone were to be bitten by an infected mosquito and then they develop disease, would be anywhere from 3 to 14 days. It is a long incubation period. Yes, it is.
In some of the cases?
Because in some of the cases, those individuals have other comorbid conditions, so they have other chronic diseases that lower their body's ability to fight infection, and that can put them at risk for dying from the illness.
Would the elderly be considered at risk?
Well, yes, the elderly are at risk, but actually West Nile virus is no age discriminator. We have had in the area people as young as their 20s up into their 80s to become infected with the West Nile virus. Across the state, the low end of the age range is even younger. So it's no respecter of age. But older people do seem to suffer more serious illness. So we would just recommend, of course, that everybody practice the 4Ds.
Would y'all go through the difference in prevention philosophies that exist between, for instance, Tarrant and Dallas counties? They're doing an awful lot of spraying in Dallas County.
Well,
which
if I might rephrase that. As I said at the beginning, historically, our Tarrant County collaboration has always supported prevention first. So we really want to try to get, first of all, we want to prevent the mosquito breeding areas from happening at all. That's number one. And you do that by not having the standing water and, going out and inspecting and making sure you've tipped all your flower pots and you don't have a stopped up gutter or that type of thing. Secondly, protect yourself and either don't go out during the times of day that mosquitoes are active, or take the precautions you've heard about with the DEET and the covered clothing. The next thing is larviciding, because what we want to do is, if you do have mosquitoes breeding, you want to prevent them from hatching and becoming adult biting mosquitoes. And so the next step is larviciding. So we have worked, this is where the collaboration comes in again. We've worked with the municipalities over the years. That's why many of them are electing to bring in samples so that they can find out where do we have these pools and where do we need to go and do the larviciding. As I believe Dr. Parker mentioned, or Gary, individuals can also buy the little donut packets at the hardware store and some of the big box stores. And if they have standing water that they can't do something about, then they can use those little donuts to keep the water clean. Another means of addressing the issue is to spray. Spraying only kills adult mosquitoes. And there is a recommended course of action that you have to take to do spraying, which talks about a number of days over the same area and that type of thing.
And our philosophy is directed at keeping them from becoming adult mosquitoes.
Yes. And you only get the area that you've gotten that the spray has reached, and you haven't found the source and prevented the eggs from hatching. So that's been our philosophy, and that's what most of our partners in Tarrant County have supported over time. We do have some partners that were already spraying. They were doing some nuisance spraying before West Nile virus ever came to Tarrant County. They continue to do that, and it's certainly up to the municipalities if they choose to do that. Thank you for asking that. And I just wanted to add, going back to the education and awareness piece, we've had a couple of years where we didn't see very much. We were very busy for 5 or 6 years, and then last year we only had 2 cases. The year before that we didn't have any. And I think, out of sight, out of mind, and I think a lot of people were very aware of the 4Ds and what they needed to be doing. And then we had 2 years where we weren't seeing very much and you weren't hearing very much about it. And now we're seeing all of these cases. So we're working very hard to come up with some additional ways of providing training and education to the public, and we'll keep you informed as those develop. It will mean bringing in some more partners and working with them to get the word out.
Does the severity of winter have anything to do with the severity of West Nile in the spring and summer?
Yes, sir. Because this year, last couple of years where Ms. Brewer mentioned that we didn't have much activity, we had very cold, freezing winters. Okay, this year was very mild. We didn't get what we call a good kill for the mosquitoes. And so, yes, weather has a lot. Plus, we did have a wet spring, which also added to it. So a mild winter and a wet spring conducive to mosquito breeding.
Thank you all for your presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
Do you want to talk with us at all about budget hearing that starts Monday?
Yes. We're going to, obviously, budget hearing starts next Monday at 9 o'clock. We are going to be getting the budget letter out to you within a day or two. And I believe that the auditor's office has sent you all some information on revenues. And we're preparing some expenditure. Yeah, the departments received their budget information yesterday, so we're gearing up for that. But you should be getting your budget letter within 2 days.
One of the other things that we've talked about, we've talked about before looking at our cash reserves, and hopefully we're going to be able to do something on our cash reserves. That will require the court to sit down and think about, okay, do we think this is as much as, what do we need in reserve for things like our health insurance, our workers' comp, our self-insured, and then just general reserves. And then that gives us a little bit of an idea of, what monies we might have over or under rainy day funds, any of those types of things. So that's something else that we're going to try to have ready by.
Judges, as you and I have talked about that, we're looking at somewhere in late August to have those discussions, if that's okay with you.
Prior to the time that we would actually vote on the budget itself. So that's something that we'll also try to look for. Any questions or?
We're, just for everybody's information, we are moving slowly forward on reworking that Precinct 3 Hearst Courthouse. We have done a number of studies as far as utilizing some existing, moving to other sites. We've pretty much come to the conclusion that the cost to utilize existing exceeds the cost of building new, and that we can save $2 million if we can stay where we're at in proper land costs, basically. So our goal is to stay where we are. We're going to have a parking problem, and at this point, we had looked at a parking structure. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that. From a budget standpoint, at this point, we got some preliminary numbers a week or so ago, and so we're probably going to back off of that and And actually, I think we're going to probably reduce the size of the building a little bit, so move it.
Juvenile's not probably going to be there.
Juvenile appears that they're not going to be there. So they have found a place that they think they can stay for a number of years and not have to move back in there. So we're going to reduce probably 4,000 to 5,000 feet.
And then in the interim, some of your departments are going to move to South Lake.
We would go to, in the interim, about half of us would go to South Lake, and which would take, we don't think will take any renovation. I'm pretty sure it won't. I think all it's going to take is some IT to do their magic and, tie everybody back together. And we've located a spot across the street. Well, I'm not sure that's going to work. We thought it would, but their cost is come in significantly higher than I think David wants to deal with. So, but we're still working on that. So, anyway, we're moving forward.
Please tell Kathy that we're all thinking about her.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Any other business at this time? Then we'll recess our open meeting and proceed to close. Having returned from our closed session and there being no business to conduct at this time, we are adjourned.